Hello, and welcome to the review video for the Hikvision DS-2CD4A26FWD-IZS. The 4A26 is a 2 megapixel bullet camera with Darkfighter low light technology. This model we tested was the 2.8 to 12mm Varifocal option. So let's start with a basic scenario that almost every IP camera would come across in its day-to-day recording, that being a bright early morning scene. As you can see, the camera's 2 megapixel sensor handles the brightness impressively, if slightly oversaturated and undersaturated in some parts of the scene. But this is probably more to do with the sensitivity of the sensor being set quite high to improve the camera's night performance, and this can be changed in the settings. Next we come to a midday scene, which at first glance is just as detailed and clear as the previous scene, but there are some improvements. Take the shadowy parts of the scene, for example. There is a lot more finer detail in these parts of the scene than earlier on, and with more sunlight the camera's colour rendition gets better as well. Now we come to a late afternoon scene with a mixture of bright and dark elements to deal with, but the biggest issue is the shadows. This is where the extra sensitive sensor comes in handy because it allows you to see more of what is happening in the shadows, such as the person collecting washing in this scene. Next we come to an early evening scene in which the camera performs solidly across the whole scene with strong colour rendition everywhere you look. So as the person steps into frame at the back of the scene, we get an idea of how the camera performs over long distances, in this case roughly 40 meters to the shed. In the end, its distance performance is a little weak, but that is to be expected of a 2 megapixel camera at its widest 2.8mm focal length. Now we come to the part of the test where the camera's Darkfighter technology comes into its own, the IR night vision. Just after the switch is impressive, but there is still plenty of light in the scene to improve its performance. It's when we hit total darkness that we actually get to see how effective the smart IR LEDs are. Combining the IR with the Darkfighter technology produces one of the clearest nighttime images we've seen from a 2 megapixel camera. The Darkfighter technology is so impressive that you can switch the IR off and still make out the different colours in the scene with only a tiny amount of background light from the downlighters on the back of the house. But the sensor sensitivity is set high, which generates a lot of noise across the scene, so with such a clear image being achieved by the IR, you're better off having it turned on. Next we have an evening scene with a figure moving through it. They start at a middle distance, which is roughly 20 meters from the camera. The camera does pretty well of picking out the details of the clothing and hair, but in terms of the face we can only really make out that he is wearing glasses. After this, the figure moves to the shed, which is almost 40 meters from the camera. There is obviously a small drop in definition as objects get further from the camera, as it is only a 2 megapixel sensor. But surprisingly, we can still just about make out the figure's fingers, although they are quite distorted. Next, we zoom the camera to its 12mm focal length and were blown away by just how impressive the image was from a 2 megapixel sensor in complete darkness. At a similar 20-meter distance, you can not only make out the difference in the layers of clothes he is wearing, but also all his facial features. And as we move to the full 40 meters, we barely see any drop-off, with only a small amount of detail lost in the person's face, but the fingers are so much clearer that we can actually make out the detail of the palm of the man's hand. Now, for the final part of our test, we point the camera at the bird table with the hope that our regular feline friend would make an appearance, and as you can see, we didn't have to wait long. We decided when we had it set up in this position to play around with some of the IR performance settings. First, we tried turning the Smart Supplement IR off, and as you can see straight away, the standard IR handles the edges of the scene okay, but generates a considerable bright spot in the centre of the scene. After turning the Smart IR back on, we decided to adjust the manual settings of the IR to better suit the environment we were recording. We've sped these adjustments up so you get a better idea of how much change can be made in the camera settings. The details of the final settings can be seen on screen now. You can find out more about all the back-end settings for this camera in our full walkthrough that covers every menu, tab and setting you could possibly want to know about. Find it in the top right of this video or in the description below. Finally, we come to the morning, and as the IR switches back to colour, we have to draw a brief conclusion of this camera. I don't think it would be exaggerating to say that it is one of the best IR performances we have ever seen, with only minor detail lost even up to 40 meters from the camera. Also, its varifocal lens offers you much more variety when installing the camera, and the Darkfighter technology is not only useful during the night, but also handles shadows and dark daytime scenes impressively. Its only major letdown is how the sensor deals with bright sun, but this could easily be balanced out by adjusting the camera's settings. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel for more reviews and helpful videos about everything IP. Don't forget to check out the full review and other camera reviews via the tab above this video, or if you're watching this on YouTube by clicking the link in the video description. If you're interested in buying the camera, then click the box on the right of this video which will take you to the Use IP web shop. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.